As the console generations evolved from arcades, 16 to 32-bit, 2D to 3D, so did the expectations of players. Online play expanded the gaming landscape from couch co-op, DLC, microtransactions, battle passes and so on. During these evolutions, Nintendo have continued to buck the trend. They have doubled down their mantra, their philosophy on what they want games to get from playing Nintendo. With the launch of Nintendo Switch 2, I reflected on my experience with Nintendo and why people are so emotive when it comes to Nintendo and how gaming on their systems is unlike their competitors. I wanted to understand the Nintendo philosophy of player experience. Hi, I'm Obsessing Again. I'm not here to review, I'm here to deep dive. You name it, I've probably got an opinion on it. The video company we know of have a storied history in the gaming industry, from major successes to some flops, but what has stood the test of time is their unwavering commitment to making great games and lasting memories. As stated on their website, Nintendo's mission is to put smiles on the faces of everyone we touch. Cheesy but undoubtedly true and consistent, but how have they achieved this? What products and games have made people gleeful, creating memories across the world? In 1983, Nintendo released the Nintendo Entertainment System in their native country. 2 years later, into the United States. At this point, Pac-Man would be the most poignant game, but the gaming industry would change forever with the packed-in Super Mario Bros. The first level, the backdrop, intuitive gameplay, it didn't need moments to pause to tell you how and what to do. You simply picked the controller up and played. I think it's become so familiar that people overlook its simplicity by today's standards, and in some ways you would be hard pressed to find a better game. The story throughline is to defeat Bowser, save the princess and restore peace to the Mushroom Kingdom. Tropey, but for 1985 it's perfectly succinct. To go a step further, it's essential. The core ideas that were brought into this game, the level design, level discovery, the two-player mode, having a dedicated brother in Luigi, have all stayed true to Nintendo. But in order to understand how these have stayed true to Nintendo, I had to look beyond the game. Miyamoto might not be a mainstream celebrity, but his status in gaming is legendary. His vision, his characters have contributed to over 1 billion games sold, Mario and Zelda both being focal points of the brand. When Miyamoto has reflected on his career and the body of work, it all stems from his childhood. Miyamoto's rise as being the ambitious director who defined decades of gaming to now being a curator of ideas and vision for fledgling animators and artists. In 2011, I think he unintentionally personified his legacy by saying, "It isn't about games for me, personally, and it never really was. It was about creating anything far bigger than yourself." I think this extract harkens back to the origins of Zelda. The series came from the memories of his childhood in Kyoto, the forest, the lakes and villages, creating the sense of freedom and adventure. We all have idyllic memories or experiences that deeply affect and warp our sense of being, but what he did was more special, the ability to harness those deeply significant, flickering visions, personified in Link to rescue Zelda. The release of the Game Boy, the portability is still reflected in the Nintendo of today. For the time it was truly special. The portability was just groundbreaking. A lot of fans' most beloved Nintendo games come from this console line, and yet it wasn't powerful. There's something more deep and intimate with carrying these experiences on the go. The video game and hardware designer Gunpei Yokoi had a quote that brilliantly sums up how Nintendo have been in the market. Lateral thinking of withered technology. That you could repurpose older or aging technology and create something new. Nintendo has never directly wanted to compete with the latest advanced technology. New innovation, new stories, but it was not as important as the play experience. Many people at Nintendo reference the technology and its importance. In a board meeting, Iwata explained, "Even a small amount of power can have a great effect when concentrated on a certain area." Some would see this as a major flaw, but Nintendo have always seen opportunity. To have these expansive games, a fraction of the size of their competitors, they extracted everything from the technology, refined for these stories. As the leader of one of the most creative visionary companies, the duality between two roles in Mr. Iwata as a CEO and Reggie president of Nintendo America, their approaches were similar but different. Firstly, their upbringings and cultures are unalike. The big, larger-than-life character of Reggie, and Iwata, wise but also humble, visionary. These figureheads combined ideas that brought Nintendo a new lease of life from their initial triumphs in the 1980s. Reggie's role was to drum up excitement and sales in America, bringing his know-how and expertise of the market with Iwata's vision. I think both shared a passion for gaming and the gamers. Iwata was respected, but it never went to his head. He was focused on the player and the joy. They both had a sense of how to engage with gamers, famous especially at E3. They were playful to the media, and this is definitely influenced by Reggie. Both, more importantly, had a shared foresight that gaming can be a barrier. They wanted to breach that barrier to entry. Gaming has always been seen as a young person's activity, but they wanted to make more compelling hardware to invite and entice software to retain. The Wii being their greatest success. Iwata said in an interview, perhaps those who have quit gaming or have never played a game look at the game controller and think it's too difficult to play even before they dare to touch it. A console that had no barrier, a console anyone could simply play. Codename Revolution, the Wii is unlike anything. Transcending generations of gamers, you didn't have to manhandle the controller off someone to show how to play it. Since the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, trophies, achievements have become more prevalent. For Nintendo, they've never really attempted to do it. For gamers, it's the pride of completing a difficult task epitomised in a mini victory for the player. Subsequently, it became a clever way to entice players to fully 100% finish a game, and then the bragging rights. But why myself and many players love trophies and achievements is for the way it shows your journey as a player. This is a byproduct, and yet Nintendo has not and doesn't appear to even try. Why? Nintendo has a very different outlook on achievement. Sure, Nintendo wants you to collect moons, Sonic wants you to collect rings, but by the Nintendo ecosystem, the game is only complete when you've said so. Arbitrary achievement lists or trophies want user engagement. When doing this, you feel a greater sense of achievement when you get the illustrious gold trophy or high achievement, but I found that moment to be fleeting, with the grating journey taking precedent over the final moment. For Nintendo, achievement is defeating a boss, finishing a level. The level design of Nintendo games is enchanting for how illustrious it is. It's not fussed about whether you play 5 minutes or 5 hours, they are no longer mysteries. You've explored the game to the point it has no way of surprising you. You've extracted everything from it. Nintendo wants you to feel pride in the moment-to-moment gameplay. It wants you to push the game and experiment. Especially in titles like Super Mario Odyssey or Breath of the Wild, it will provide a toolset and the basic instructions, and the rest is down to your play, your fun. Systems like the Wii U eroded much of what made Nintendo great. Clunky, cheap, and yet it was still creating compelling games. The 3DS launch was turbulent, but in time would become very successful. Combining all the teachings highlights the dominance in Switch. Switch has been incredibly successful due to its versatility in how you play, a varied library, and bringing families together. By having a console in the lounge, the presence of Nintendo radiates among generations of family members and generations of different gamers. Nintendo can only hope they've captured enough imagination of these Switch gamers to migrate over to the newly released Switch 2. The Nintendo philosophy isn't just one designer's idea or a business manifesto that was set out, it's a collection of people who brought their unique ideas from childhood mixed with a hint of whimsical and fun. Too many times video game companies become overly interested in graphical fidelity, trying to keep up with trends and not willing to take risks. Nintendo took chances on game ideas, characters and new and innovative ways of playing games. Some would be remembered as fads whilst others would be remembered fondly. Some would stand the test of time for generations. What sets Nintendo apart is how it's the perfect console to be placed into the hands of a child, and yet also the perfect console to entice adults back in from years of absence. Its plug-in and play simplicity, the versatility in not only how you play, but what you play with, has always held a light to gamers of all ages and abilities. The sense of achievement and satisfaction. May Nintendo continue to surprise and delight. Thank you for letting me obsess again.